This video is going to be a film study look at the contributions of Amik Robertson through 4 games on the Detroit Lions defense. When he signed, coming over from the Raiders, he was billed as a nickel slot DB who was also very versatile and tough, quick and rangy, probably better in man than perhaps he was in zone. Has he been that so far for the Lions? Has he lived up to what Lions fans would have expected and the front office as well? Well, first we'll do globally. The Lions are 10th in the NFL in points per game allowed, significant improvement over last year. 20.5 or 20.45 points allowed per game. That's down almost really 4 points from 2023. I think they were 23.8. They have allowed 1,100 passing yards through 4 games. Excuse me. I think that's significant. Geno Smith did have 395 in Week 4. It's been a while since the Lions have played football. Obviously, I do hope that in the time since their win over the Seahawks at home in Week 4 that they have been working on zone defense and making things look like man pre-snap and then playing a little bit more zone. As an aside, this video, consider it not just a film study look at Amik Robertson, but also a preview. I plan on doing a Lions live stream where we focus on the different coverages they're playing, how teams are attacking them, to hopefully promote and help you as a Lions fan maybe enjoy the game a little more, be able to anticipate things based on how the Lions are lined up pre-snap, and then what the offensive formation is. And it'll be my job to try to explain that in the live stream. So if you're interested in that, please let me know in the comment section. Overall, the Lions' pass defense, while giving up a lot of yards, they've only allowed 4 touchdowns. And they have 4 interceptions, 3 by Joseph, 1 by Brian Branch, who hopefully plays this week. They do, however, have, I believe, 11 penalties on the defensive coverage on the back end. 8 defensive pass interferences, 3 defensive holdings. It seems like Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are comfortable with that. I think that's a little bit alarming, a little too high in my opinion. They've got things to clean up over there. Amik Robertson doesn't seem to be as big a part of that, obviously, as Carlton Davis III and Terrion Arnold, who are playing on the outside, so it's a different leverage side at times for those guys. The run defense has been dominant. Obviously, they're 3rd in the NFL there, allowing basically, I think, 90 yards per game. How does Amik Robertson fit into all that? I guess, how does he fit into that for you, in your opinion? First of all, he's playing a wildly disparate number of snaps. Against the Seahawks in Week 4, a lot of 11 personnel, he played 52 snaps. 36 against the Rams in Week 1. Overall, he's, I think, 52, 53% of the snaps. I think the right number is about 35 per game. So far, based on 2 websites I was able to go find as far as advanced numbers or stats, I got him at 11 of 19 completions to targets. I tried to confirm that with a second website. I think he's better in man. I'm just going to go off the eye test here in my judgment. I think he's better in man right now, more reliable, tough, plays hard, physical. I think he matches up really well with some of the quick, small, wide receivers that you're going to see and have seen so far. JSN and Lockett for the Seahawks, and then a couple of the Cardinals wide receivers. Let's get to the film here, and we'll talk about man coverage first, get to some zone a little bit later. Now, this is very late in the second quarter. You can see by the structure of the defense in the back end. That's what I like about the All-22, the way the NFL does it. They do actually give us all 22 players in the screen, so we get to see that there's a whole bunch of guys back here. We're talking about, I think, 14 seconds left in the half. Lions up 21-7. But Robertson is a guy who can and does compete in man against these smaller guys who are oftentimes used to winning cleanly, and he does not allow that. I'm a big fan, to be honest with you. I was a big fan when they signed him. Have there been moments this year where Robertson, Branch, Arnold, Davis III have had trouble, especially in man? Yes, there have. And I'll kind of chronicle that when we do the live stream, hopefully late Tuesday night. This is a situation, again, against the Seahawks. I'm pretty much going to focus on Seahawks film here. I think he played very well last week. 8 tackles overall. This is a 3rd and 3 against Tyler Lockett. You can see they motioned him across. It's another shielded pick release, if you ask me, whereby Lockett is going to release to the outside and step around DK Metcalf. And generally, Robertson goes over the top of these things. You're going to see during the live stream, and actually I think 1 or 2 plays here, a number of times where receivers run these routes, and there's also a corresponding route from the other side that's designed to almost pick you as a defender, and oftentimes Robertson gets over the top of those. Sometimes safeties help out and cutting it from the far side. Sometimes they don't. That's not what happens here, but I'm using that to explain how the release of Lockett, I think, makes this play even more impressive. He forces Robertson to match to the outside. Robertson puts his left foot in the ground, recovers, gets there, perfect timing. I think Geno Smith is playing really well for the Seahawks so far this year. Threw for 395 for them against the Lions last week. They just dropped a game on Sunday at home. I think was very disappointing. From an offensive standpoint, they're having trouble protecting him. This, to me, is an example of Geno Smith putting the ball in a place where his guy can make a play, and Amik Robertson is there on time, physical. He's committed. I'm not aware that he has as many, certainly not as many defensive pass interference calls as Arnold and Davis III do. He seems to have really good timing and instincts in here in the slot playing man. The Seahawks game, I think, is kind of evidence number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of that. This is the same play, end zone angle again. It's a 3rd and 3. It's a little fuzzy because of where I've got it paused, so my apologies for that. But he's committed, and he understands routes. He understands the line to gain and the routes that he's probably going to get. I thought that was a great pass breakup. I don't even know how many pass breakups he's got on the year. I just know that I think he's playing quite well against some of these smaller, quick receivers that give people trouble all over the NFL. So this is moving a little bit later in the game, fourth quarter. I think the game's pretty much decided at this point, but the Seahawks did get down inside the 10. It's a 1st and 10. You're up 42-29. He's running over the top while JSN goes underneath, kind of the dynamic that I described a little bit ago. And then he's a really good tackler, in my opinion. If he was to go underneath this, he would be in trail. He'd have to be right on the hip pocket. But you'll see a couple of examples here. Teams, since the Lions are playing so much man, teams are doing a lot of mesh concepts, a lot of rub pass concepts whereby you, as the player in man, have got to decide, do I want to run into this offensive player and hope the refs call it? They're not going to, by the way. Or do I have to go underneath and be in trail, go over the top, and try to beat the receiver to the spot? Amik Robertson, really, he can do either of the last two options. But his quickness and his tackling ability, I think he's a reliable player. I think he's a very good nickel DB, slot corner, whatever you want to call him, on what could be a much better defense than it is right now. 10th in the league it's good enough to win football games. I still think that they can get better. I think they can clean things up from a coverage standpoint. They do play so much man and don't match routes. And what I mean is oftentimes from bunch, you're getting wildly different releases by players such that you're going to experience natural picks or rubs, and it can give the quarterback easy throws if someone gets knocked off track. Now, there was communication here. I don't know why. They did call this later on in the game on Tyler Lockett. He basically runs right into Amik Robertson. I guess he makes it look like it's a route such that the refs don't call it. It's a 3rd and 5, not called. Throw happens to get JSN down to the ground. Robertson is able to recover and get the tackle. I think Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are comfortable with this. I think they trust these guys, even though there have been a significant number of penalties called on them. I think they trust them because it's a known outcome. It's a known play type for the offense, whereby they, the Lions, can scheme against it and say, okay, at least we don't have to defend A and B. We only have to focus on C on this particular snap. Maybe that's too simplistic of an explanation for you. Moving backwards here a little bit. This is going to be him in man against Cooper Kupp. Again, good timing. I think he's there a little early. I remember seeing this one in week 1. The Rams threw the ball a ton. Got the ball out quick. And this plays into the play style of Amik Robertson, which is if you're going to make one cut, I'm going to be there. And in this case, yeah, he's there a little bit early, I think, but it's still a great play. Even if they had called it, it's a 1st and 10, opportunity to get a pass deflection, and he does so. Again, I don't know how many he has on the year. He reminds me, body size is way different than the person I'm getting to mention. And capability as a run defender as well, like in the box type stuff. He reminds me of Kyle Hamilton in that one cut does not beat him. It's going to have to be something whereby there's a second move and or a pick, a rub, or a shield. Amik Robertson, he will react appropriately and on time to one-cut routes, and in that case there, like I said, against Cooper Kupp, gets a pass defensed. Certainly looks like man pre-snap. Lions and Aaron Glenn do not care that they're showing it to you. I do think there is some drawbacks to that, but that's not necessarily the point of this video. But when I try to focus on a particular player and how well I think they're playing, or poorly in some cases, inconsistent, I want to show snaps of them even when they're not targeted. I think that you're not getting true, quote, coverage grades of people if you're not looking at every single snap. And in my opinion, Robertson is a guy that against these smaller, quicker, in some cases a little bit bigger, I think this is Wilson, who's a little bit bigger than him, he puts himself in position to defend the sticks. It's a 3rd and 6, so I think he's super intelligent and very aware. He's not going to go underneath of stuff when it's 3rd and 6. Notice the leverage that he takes. He's going to stay on top of the route because the line to defend is the positive 44, the Lions' 44-yard, a game within a game, and ensuring that he's on a particular side. That's a 3rd and 5, week 1 against the Rams. And Robinson is going to win across the field against him. But I'm going to relate this to something we'll talk about in the coverage live stream. It's possibility it may not be Tuesday night. It's possibility it ends up being Wednesday. But I want to conduct it at a time that's convenient for Lions fans, number one. And I want to be prepared and be able to provide information to you guys. And then also, read your comments if you notice things that I do not. So this is Robinson going all the way across the field. Like I said, it's a 3rd and 5. And the Lions do this a lot since they play man. It's not in every instance they play man, they don't operate off of this reaction, meaning an in-breaking route. Robertson, will release it to the safety. And they've had trouble with this. The 2 situations where it gets passed off to the safety, and the safety, for whatever reason, peels off, or the quarterback extends the play. Branch ends up getting there and making the tackle. It is a 1st down for Robinson, who actually played for the Ravens for a year. He was a underutilized receiver, let's put it that way, and perhaps inconsistent at times. So this is a situation where if you watch this, you say, well, he got beat across the field. I think he's told to maintain outside leverage here and release this to the safety. Safeties might have the first in-breaking route above 6 yards, above 8 yards, depending on the down and distance. You can see what's happened here. Kirby Joseph has dropped down to not allow an underneath throw. And then Branch's job is to take the first in-breaking route above 6 yards, above 8 yards, whatever their rule is, whatever their call is. So Robertson, if you ask me, teams like the Patriots with Bill Belichick, they would peel him off, and basically he would gain depth, release the route completely to the safety, and look for the other crosser. So the Patriots would teach, not in all coverages, but in certain ones, the reaction would be to get depth and look for potential, post from the other side, a deeper dig, something like that. That's not exactly what the Lions are doing here. I'm just showing you that I think the reaction is somewhat similar in that Robertson is allowing or releasing Robinson to the inside and asking the safety to pick him up. In that case, Branch makes the tackle a little bit too late. Week 1 again here. They certainly do ask a lot of Robertson in terms of who he guards, generally in the slot, to the field. Carlton Davis III defended this route really well in this instance against Johnson. Of course, later on in the game, ended up too high, and Johnson puts his foot in the ground, brings it back all the way, almost scores, I think, 63-yard catch. As it relates to Robertson, he defends these routes well, in my opinion. Pretty much the same concept here. He's to the top side, 2nd and 10 against Arizona, 4th quarter, in almost an overrepresented fashion against the Lions this year, but it's because they know the coverage. So part of that is related to the choices that Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are willing to make and what they're willing to accept in terms of where they want the quarterback to throw the ball. I think Robertson's got great feet, great hips, awareness, doesn't panic when the ball's in the air. I think he's playing very well. I have no idea what his PFF rating is. I really don't care. To my knowledge, and I could be wrong on this, feel free to call me out in the comment section if I am wrong, PFF does not grade plays where you're not targeted. And if that is true, that's an incomplete grade, and I would absolutely omit it. So I'm not saying that you should only rely on me. You rely on as many content creators or people who you think go over film in an accurate fashion to make your own judgments, and don't trust a flat number that's out there that's only based on plays where they're targeted. Because check this one out. This is Branch's interception against the Bucs in the home loss in week 2. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that Baker Mayfield is targeting Mike Evans against Carlton Davis III. But you could also say that the ball is thrown close enough to the guy that Robertson is guarding that who is the targeted receiver. Of course, they get asked questions after the game in press conferences. That's cool. But if you're evaluating the game, like certain rating services say they do, and you come out with grades so quickly, how the hell do you know who the targeted receiver is? Both of these guys are pretty much stacked right on top of each other. I do actually believe it's targeting Mike Evans, but to our point about Robertson, he is all over Godwin on this 3rd and 7. I think Robertson's playing at a very high level. You would like to see more interceptions. I understand that. I also would like to add that I think his reactions in zone sometimes need. The receiver does is run to the outside shoulder of the curl flat player. That may not actually be responsible for curl flat in every zone defense, but in this case, 18 Johnson is running to the outside shoulder of Robertson, and Robertson isn't seeing anything at all in front of him. I think he's just keying the quarterback, trying to break on the out while the ball was thrown at an angle or in a slot that he care why. At times, these guys aren't just running through the face of the wide receiver here to expand with the flat routes. And will there be times the refs will call it? I mean, you're pretty much right at that line to gain that line in terms of the 5, or in this case, 6-yard depth. We would teach our guys to have their heels at contact down the field like that. You can make contact until the ball is thrown. So it's a different dynamic here in the NFL, and I certainly wouldn't be capable of coaching these guys. My response here is a little simplistic, but this isn't working either. And this happened through me of focusing too much on the quarterback, probably not getting enough reps at that particular skill in practice because you spend so much time in man. Moving back to week 4, second quarter here. And I think Robertson, again, is lacking a little awareness here of the route. Now, Geno Smith extends the play, pushes out to the right. It's a 3rd and 6. JSN ends up behind him, which is what JSN's taught to do, so that to encourage or influence the curl flat defender to lose him. You can see the overload nature that the Lions have here. I mean, you've almost got 5 responsible for 3 over here with one of the safeties on the backside working back over the top. I think it's Joseph. I think he loses track of JSN there, and he's pissed off about it. I think Robertson could play better in zone. Things happen incredibly quick, number 1. Number 2, he is a little bit worried about what am I going to do here if Geno Smith gets out of the pocket and tries to scramble, and in this case gives up an easy completion. Look, Smith played extremely well that day. People will say, well, coach, the routes that are behind him, how can he have awareness of them? From the way that I was coached and the way that I coached kids, again, at a much lower level than this, you did not refer to it as routes behind you because that's a cop-out. Because now you're building in an excuse. You would say it's routes to your outside, even if in reality they are routes that are out. At focusing on a quarterback at times, like that completion to JSN on the 3rd down I showed you a couple plays ago. I think that Amik Robertson is a part of the formula for a successful and very good Lions defense in 2024. Are they a very good defense right now? Well, they're top 10 in scoring. I think maybe it's 10th or 11th. So I think they are, yes, but I think they can be better. So not willing to apply very good yet for me because I think they can be better from a coverage standpoint. The pass rush certainly has to improve. They're running out of time here. Davenport is gone for the year or for a long time at minimum. They certainly stop the run no matter who's out there. Onwuzurike has been a revelation. I think he's involved in 3 different sacks. Each one has been a half sack, along with Aiden Hutchinson, who has 6.5. Last week, DJ Reader got in on 1, had a sack. You would like to think that would continue, meaning let's get a couple of sacks per game from defensive tackles. Aiden Hutchinson give us a sack or a sack and a half, sometimes 2, and maybe we can find a way to create pressure with some other guys. From that standpoint with the pass rush, you're almost in the same damn place you were last year at this point. From a coverage standpoint, Amik Robertson gives you flexibility with Brian Branch that is pretty unique. Branch is playing at an extremely high level, in my opinion. Having Robertson at the nickel allows Branch to be a little bit more versatile allows you as a coach to put him in more locations. Branch is already versatile. He's the best pass defender on this team, and he may actually be the best defender on the team overall, even though Aiden Hutchinson at this point, if you just were to project his stats out, he's on a potential Hall of Fame track. And I know that there will be some who say it's too soon for you to say that, Coach. I said the same thing about TJ Watt after his third year in the league. Just look at what Aiden Hutchinson has been able to do in each of his first 2 seasons, and he's got 6.5 sacks already. Branch and him, either one, take your pick, is the best player on the defense. Missing Branch last week against the Seahawks was a huge deal. The Seahawks were certainly without some of their starters, but Branch not being on the field with everything that he provides, I think was as important as 2 or 3 starters being out for Seattle. How does that relate to Amik Robertson? I think Amik Robertson allows Aaron Glenn to put Branch in spots on a snap-by-snap basis because he knows he has a reliable, good man-to-man cover guy at the nickel position. I think Robertson's got to get a little bit better in zone coverage. I am a stickler for over-reliance with your eyes on staring at the quarterback. I think it continuously I think it continuously gives up easy completions to quarterbacks because guys are moved by the quarterback's face mask or where he's looking. But in any case, I think Amik Robertson's playing quite well this year. I probably hammered the zone coverage a little bit too much. You guys let me know what you think of the film study video that I put together for you here, the plays that I chose to kind of illustrate how well I think Amik Robertson is playing. And then finally, if you'd be interested in a live stream about the Lions' coverages so far in 2024, which at times have been a little simplistic, over-reliance on man, but nonetheless have contributed to a winning formula, at least so far. Shaving off 4 points allowed per game is significant. I think that number can get even lower. I think earlier in the season, a lot of us talked about in the Discord and in the comment section, getting down to 18.5, somewhere around there, is really realistic and still possible from a statistical standpoint. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this video and you want to see my content get pushed out to a larger audience, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other Lions fans can enjoy it as well.